Management.com. This is Toronto at Noon with Peter Shurman on News Talk 1010 CFRB. Headhunting for a prime minister, an executive search. Can you imagine? Rosenzweig and Company is a leading executive search firm here in Toronto. Jay Rosenzweig and his partner Alan Zelniker know how to find the right senior executive or chief executive officer. Could they find a prime minister if they had to? Well, they applied their recruitment experience to this task. They wrote about it in the National Post. This is apolitical, they say. It's just a strengths and weaknesses assessment like they do with you if you're being considered for a senior position. Who would win on this basis? Jay Rosenzweig joins us today. Welcome.
Oh, hi, Peter. Thanks for having me. Just to frame this a little bit, we at Rosenzweig and Company are in the business really of injecting leaders into the corporate world, leaders who can take these companies forward. So we thought it would be an interesting exercise to look at Paul Martin and Stephen Harper and Jack Layton the very way we would look at candidates for a CEO's job for a large national corporation.
Okay, so let me stop you there. We'll save the winners and losers and look at the strengths and weaknesses in a minute. But I want everybody to understand, because not everybody's been through the executive search process, that basically companies come to you, typically board of directors, and if we transpose that to Canada, the board of directors would be us, the people.
Exactly.
And we would set out objectives for what we want in our leaders. So the board of directors would task you, so we task you, and we say we want the prime minister, and he has to be this, that, and that.
Exactly.
And so you went at it that way, did you not?
Absolutely. And keep in mind that business and politics are clearly very different. But a CEO and a prime minister must share certain attributes to be successful. For example, both must really be able to lead others. They must possess the stomach to make tough, sometimes unpopular decisions, really draw upon their relevant experience, and finally exhibit a personality that ignites passion and motivation.
Oh boy, are you hitting the touchstones there? Are you hitting the touchstones? And we'll get into it in a minute.
Yeah.
But you say to yourself, CEO. Well, the prime minister is, if Canada were a corporation, is a CEO. But a prime minister is way more than a CEO, because companies, while diverse and disparate, are nowhere near as diverse and disparate as this monster country of 30-some million.
Exactly. So, and I would agree with that. So politics and business, we both agree, are very different, and analogies only go so far. So this is not an exact science, as we all know. Government is not run like a business. But as the pollsters like to say, our approach might be accurate to 4 points either way, 19 times out of 20.
I get what you're saying, confidence intervals and all that sort of thing. All right, let's suppose that there were resumes available. And in a way, although Messrs. Martin and Harper and Layton are not submitting resumes, we have them because we watch their activities every day.
Exactly.
They're written about every day. They're spoken about every day. So you have certain facts about how they behave.
Yeah.
Let's look at the candidates. Let's take them apart, and let's start with Jack Layton.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Well, Jack Layton is very passionate, and he appears strong in his convictions. But he fights this perception that he's cavalier. For example, he is still paying for the time he made a statement counter to his party's position on the Clarity Act. Just a couple of days ago, as we know, he had to deal with this again. His comments blaming Mr. Martin for the deaths of homeless people in Toronto were not received particularly well. So this passion that he exudes really can be a two-edged sword, and you need to be very leery of that when assessing leadership style.
So without putting words in your mouth, what you're saying is, on the one hand, Jack tends to be a believable kind of leader, in the sense that he certainly is true to his principles on the one hand.
Yes.
On the other hand, he shoots from the hip every once in a while.
Yeah, so you must be leery of that kind of passion, although we do admire the kind of focus and steadfastness he brings in terms of his belief and his belief in his strong communication skills.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have Jack Layton sitting there. He is true to his principles. If you like the principles, there are these pluses and minuses, but there he sits. You use the word passion, and when I hear passion, I think of Harper and this past week, very particularly being asked, do you love Canada? And listening to the answer and saying, well, if it were me, I would have said, passionately, but it wasn't me. It was Harper. So let's kick it off there and let's listen to your assessment of Stephen Harper.
Well, I think you hit it right on the nose with Stephen Harper. He's got this image of that cerebral policy advisor. who did, in fact, for years play the role of policy advisor on economic and social issues. But the problem is his communication skills, something essential to leaders. These skills are improving, but in our view, they will never be superlative. So he doesn't appear to have the charisma to charge and inspire the masses as let's say, a Ronald Reagan or a Bill Clinton, if we were to go to the U.S., might inspire people.
Okay. Let's move on to the Prime Minister, who I guess we all know very well at this point. I could probably sit here and say, here's some pluses and here's some minuses. Sure. I'm going to let you do it.
Well, Paul Martin is clearly long on experience, both as a chief financial officer and a chief executive officer in both government and business. But there lingers this guilt by association with the sponsorship scandal, perhaps unfairly. But on the other hand, if he didn't know what was going on, how many other things did this individual miss as well? So there's this taint that he has, even though in the Gomery report he may have been exonerated. So this is a big problem for him moving forward.
If you were, I'm going to put you on the spot here because you're the guys who have done this work, and you're the experts. If you were doing what it is you do, and these were your three candidates, and I think we should point out that when you do an executive search, you don't start with three candidates. You start with maybe 50 or 100 candidates, and you whittle it down to what's called the shortlist. So now you got your shortlist, and it's Layton and Harper and Martin. Forgetting about the politics, just looking at the leadership skills and the management skills, the communication skills, which is what you seem to have assessed for the most part. Where are you?
Well, Peter, our job is to lay out the facts about each candidate, determine who is good for a particular job, and then present the best to the client. And you're quite right. We would have done extensive research before reaching the level of only three candidates for the leadership job. Our initial research can yield more than 100 candidates for these large CEO assignments. But at the end of the day, it's really up to the client, once we presented the pros and cons, to make that ultimate decision. As wishy-washy as that might seem, it's really the only approach to take.
Jay, you're being a politician yourself.
Well, that reminds me of the famous line from President Harry Truman, who once said he wanted a one-armed economic advisor because he was tired of hearing on the one hand, but on the other hand. But really, as search consultants, that's the way we need to approach our process.
Okay, let me ask you then, as a search consultant, in setting qualifications, if it were for you to set the qualifications, I've been reading a synopsis of your article, and I see that you're talking about strong and impeccable ethics. You're talking about vision. Talk about vision. When you're looking for a CEO, you're looking for a guy who is big picture. If the CEO doesn't have to know how the accounting department works, he just has to trust that it does work. Because his job, her job, in many cases these days, is to set vision. Do you believe you're seeing that in any of these candidates?
Well, with each of the candidates, you see hints of that, but we're not as convinced on either of them, or either three of them, that we're seeing a bright, strong voice from that perspective. Harper appears to be quite organized. He seems to be putting forth new ideas practically on a daily basis and is driving a lot of the issues. His imperfect moves were really around the special prosecutor announcement where McKay and Justice Minister Kotler both declared it virtually impossible, and possibly the way he handled the gay marriage issue. Martin appears a little less crisp to date. The gun announcement seems to have met more questions than answers. And Layton, he's struggling with this Clarity Act issue again, and he's trying to portray an image of relevance.
Well, you know what?
Buzz Hargrove didn't help him with this cause.
I hear what you're saying, and it sounds to me like, aside from a search consultant, you're also a politico, and we appreciate you joining us today, Jay Rosenzweig.
My pleasure. Happy to be here.
Okay, Jay Rosenzweig, Rosenzweig and Company Search Consultants. When we come back, we'll be talking about hangovers, the one you're going to get in January. It's financial. I'm Peter Shurman on News Talk 1010 right here on Toronto at noon. CFRB All-Day Traffic Center now.